Hello and welcome to Chapter 8 training. This is fourth time a charm. Yes, I have tried three previous times to make this video. Never have I had so much trouble getting a video created and then uploaded properly. So here we go. Let's see how we can make it work. This is part one of two. I have it broken into two parts so it can be a little bit more bite-sized consumable. What we're going to be talking about for Chapter 8 is how we go about creating training to meet needs. And of course, if you're trying to meet needs, which is always the case, then assessing the needs is a vital first step. There's also a context for the training that is going to be referring to issues of place and persons, how they're prepared, how they're capable, those kinds of things. Then there's delivery, is the various methods we go about presenting our material, how we can do training. There's a variety of ways to go about doing that. And then there's evaluation of training. You want to know if it worked. You want to know if it actually made a difference. This is the kind of obsession we see from IO psychologists. They're going to come up with something, but they also want to know it works. They don't just assume it as scientifically oriented persons. That's just the way it is, and it's a good thing because it's easy to fool yourself into thinking things are working when maybe they're really not. So first we're going to get into various kinds of training that can be done. There's technical training. This is about working with equipment and various gadgets and tools and software and so forth. And this is increasingly important in our workspaces if we have increasingly sophisticated technologies that are involved in our work. There's quality training. This is about how to have your people detect errors or problems in the work they're doing and improve the product or services being provided. Some years ago, one of the faculty at the University of Utah, when I was a graduate student, had a contract with the Air Force to help improve fighter pilots' detection of various errors that could happen in the operation of the airplane more accurately and more quickly, how to make that information better, and also how to train the pilots to make those recognitions more effectively. Skills training is when you're working on the knowledge and skills, referring back to KSAO kind of stuff, to get the job done. Tends to be more behavioral in its style, but nevertheless trying to convey those kinds of things. Soft skills training is about social interaction skills. How well do you engage with people? And these can all be very important for internal to the office interactions, but also interactions of persons in the office to clients and customers, but also to persons that you're cooperating with in some kind of cooperative venture. Professional and legal training is usually an ongoing kind of thing on a continual basis. There is professional and legal changing, and that's because the nature of the beast is that professional training, legal training, these things are changing all the time. The federal law, state law, local laws, all are changing on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Some of which may matter and some of which may not matter to the operations of the company. So you've got to have experts who can sort through that and then do training to keep your team up to the proper knowledge base and make sure they're doing things according to the law. Team training is something that's often kind of made fun of. There's lots of jokes. There's some excellent episodes of TV shows about team training being silly and strange and all that. It's about improving the cohesiveness of work teams and groups to help them trust each other more, have a greater sense of community amongst each other as being a team. That is, this notion of cohesiveness as we belong to this common thing. The silliness that is kind of inherently embedded in it, that it seems kind of pointless, maybe the activities themselves are pointless in terms of teaching you an on-the-job skill. But that's not how they're designed. They're designed to create opportunities to do trust Yeah, but they create also a shared history of events that you're likely to talk about later. It's really later where the benefits of team training start to have big effects in cohesiveness. With that shared background, when you're taking a break or visiting with someone in the office, you can have those remember that time when kinds of conversations that helps to bond people together and make them all feel like they're part of a thing with each other. And that all helps to add to a sense of trust, the cohesiveness that we talk about for groups so that they do their work more effectively. Managerial training is an important area of training, is usually a combination of soft skills and technical skills. The soft skills, because a manager's job often is simply keeping everybody happy and doing their work well, motivating them and such. And you don't want to have behaviors and interactions that demotivate people. And there's technical skills, because there's a fair amount of unique and specialized equipment that managers use. And then there's safety training. This is about learning where and what the hazards might be in a job environment, how to act in a variety of emergencies to save lives, protect property, and that kind of thing. Now, at this point, one of the things that became a problem in creating this video, I have a scene from The Office that's really funny. It's a CPR scene. You may have seen it on other things, and I will try to get a link that I insert in, but this was causing difficulties in uploading the video, making it extra big, and in terms of making it so it had a copyright strike at YouTube. And so I had a difficult time getting it situated so that I could then share it on Canvas. So I've removed the scene from it, and I'll try to get a link so you can watch it, because it's very funny and points out some things. So, how do we go about developing a training? Well, I've alluded to some of these things in my description of what we're going to be covering, but let's go into it again. Needs assessment is the first thing that we do. By the way, side note, everything we talk about here, pretty much, applies to what we do in creating courses in college and high school, even elementary school. That is, what are the needs? What are you trying to accomplish? Which then turn into learning objectives. And every one of the classes you have a list of those things. And then learning styles are not actually a thing that should be paid a bit of attention to. Learning styles are something we feel like we have. Some people like to learn from a video medium or a visual, or they prefer kinesthetic to do things. They prefer learning by lecture or by reading and all these other things. Prefer is nice. That's real. But preferences do not connect to actual learning outcomes. That's what psychologists have found in repeated studies. People have a preference for how to learn, but that doesn't translate into actual learning outcomes in terms of learning more and learning more efficiently and better. So, what does that leave us? It leaves us with not needing to do something that's often pronounced as an important thing to do, which is adjust our teaching to fit the learning styles in the room. The fact of the matter is every classroom I've ever taught in is going to have a variety of people with a variety of learning styles. It's kind of impossible for each topic I teach to provide all of those modalities for teaching the material to meet all those learning styles. And that would be true of anything. So which ones do you pick? And you're necessarily leaving some others out. There's no right answer to that question. No matter what anyone tells you, there's no right answer to it. So is it real? Can you do it? You can't do it. And I at least from what I can tell, and the science supports me. But the key other thing to know is that learning styles, being bunk, teaching delivery styles is not bunk. And so that's the next thing we're going to talk about. There's delivery mode, which is connected to it in budget. delivery styles is real, but that's not about the students and their preferred learning. It's about the material and what you're trying to teach. If you're trying to teach someone how to properly tie the knot to hold a boat to a dock, that's probably best learned in a kinesthetic manner. That is, by actually showing and doing with the person sitting there and then them practicing it. Learn a golf swing, kinesthetic. You can talk about it some, and that will be helpful. But until you do it and then get pointed out how you're doing it wrong, till you watch someone do it, you're not learning it, folks. And the same thing applies for certain other things. If you're trying to learn history, then learning the history of a particular battle will tell you a lot about what happened and how it happened. And that's one modality. And another modality is kinesthetic. But you're going to learn an awful lot about the political background, the outcomes, and the specific tactics used simply by reading what's going on or being lectured about it. But there are other things to learn by maybe playing a war game simulation of it, either as a video game or a tabletop game, or in a war college simulating it on a battlefield. Reenacting, while there's a lot of negative edges to it, can provide that kind of education if it's so oriented. There are audience considerations. Audiences vary in their knowledge base and such, and that needs to be taken into account. There's content development that then needs to happen. How do you produce the materials that will then be delivered in class, and what are those materials going to be? What you see in class is simply the result of many hours of production time and thought into what should be there and what can be there. There's timelines, communication, and so forth. But at the end of the day, you got to measure how effective it was. Did you get the job done? Are people changing their behavior? Are they being more effective and efficient? Or are they getting more widgets produced per hour? Or whatever the measurement outcome is, that's the thing. That's the where it all ends up mattering. So a needs assessment is about a goal of ensuring the training resources are used as needed and not wasted. This takes into account 3 levels of analysis. One is the organizational objectives level, which is, what's the business or nonprofit or club or organization here to do? What are our objectives? What do we consider to be a success as a business, as an operation, as a thing? And this ends up being translated into individuals with job tasks. The job task should be about either directly doing the objectives of the business or supporting the doing of those objectives. So either you have people whose entire job is about supporting other people, or people whose jobs is entirely about doing the objectives, or people who are doing the objectives but also creating support for themselves and others to do the objectives as well. You also have to look at person needs, whether or not individuals are falling short on some of the KSAO items. That can give you an idea of what training needs to be done, particularly if it's a large number of people that maybe come in lacking. Your people always come in lacking knowledge of the specific software you use, so you always train new people on that. So then you determine your objectives, and these emerge from the needs assessment. And it answers the question, what should the trainee be able to do or know upon completion of the training? The syllabus for this class has a list of objectives. Most of the classes that you take have a list of objectives in them. These are genuinely what we're trying to get done by the end of the term. We're more or less successful because we're humans and imperfect, and we're all just muddling through the best we can, right? You also have to have reasons for training that are out there, a variety of these. One of these is orienting new employees. One of them is developing skills in existing employees. One of them is a smooth implementation of new methods and technologies. For instance, new software comes onto campus and training people on how to use it. We're training people on new curriculum software right now. That's going to be kind of difficult because this is not software that is used on a daily basis by most people on campus. Contrast that to Canvas, which most instructors and students use on a more or less hourly basis. And yeah, the one time of good training on that, and you pretty much know what you need to know, and all you need is updates as the software updates. Something like Kuali, which is the curriculum software, my guess is there's going to be a need for ongoing regular training on that. And then to remediate improper behavior by employees. When you have employees that are engaging in counterproductive work activities or doing things that are causing problems either legally or practically for the company, then you need to remediate the improper behaviors. Sometimes that's mandated by law or regulation, but more often it's simply we've identified some employees that are having some difficulties with their timeliness and getting work done, so you want to get after them about that and teach them better ways. You can criticize them and wag your finger at them, and that might help, but teaching them some tools might help more. And then it's a positive interaction rather than a negative interaction. Employee orientation is really important because it tends to reduce startup costs for new employees. Getting them going and becoming productive for the company is usually is easier to do. Also reduces new employees' anxiety. They kind of see other people are similarly not knowing what they're doing coming in the door. They see the company having a kind of comfy seat for them to come sit in and learn new stuff, that the company doesn't expect them to sink or swim, but is going to support them in their new employee status and help them do well. This ends up helping to reduce turnover because the employee does not feel lost. They feel like they're being taken care of in a way that helps them to be successful as quick as possible. It also saves time of other employees. Imagine you hire 10 people and they get dispersed out without any real orientation. Well, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have 10 of your employees out there receiving questions, maybe more, from the 10 new employees. The new employees are getting different answers from different employees that are out there on the job. But furthermore, the employees are having their own time taken up. They're losing efficiency too. Better to train all 10 of those people or orient all 10 of those people by one person in one situation before they go out into the working environment of the company than to have them go out there and then have a ton of questions. Usually a bit of a mix is done, but it's done purposefully. You train people, then you send them out there to have a chance to practice what they've been learning, sitting next to an employee, sometimes shadowing them, and sometimes actually engaging in the work. This ends up being good because it establishes the work company culture and expectations and attitudes that are part of working at a place, and that helps employees to fit in also. This is the end of part 1, and I'll be picking up on part 2 soon. Thank you very much.